Hi, welcome to another version of Good Things Happen on Fridays. My name's Rob Thomas. I'm a BG5 enthusiast. I'm a consultant. I help the Institute with lots of stuff, and I just really geek out on it. I love doing interviews, and I love the quality of the conversation that comes from these because it gives you, the viewer, an opportunity to see more about the not only the people that are delivering courses, but in the future, you're going to also be able to learn more and hear more from students that are currently taking courses. So keep your eye open for that. Of course, everything's going to arrive on the BG5 Institute Facebook page. And so with that today, I am super excited to interview my friend, Kris Prochaska. She is a mom, a wife, a leadership consultant, a speaking coach, a speaker, an author, a BG5 consultant, a foundation instructor, a profit potential instructor. And let me look at my notes just to make sure I'm not missing anything else. Kris, am I missing anything else?
An artist.
An artist, yes. I mean, is the painting behind you part of your work?
Yeah, it is.
Voila. An artist. I mean, clearly when you see someone who has such a diverse and deep background, I look at it as being art. So, Kris, thank you for giving me some of your time and giving everybody who's watching this an opportunity to learn more about you.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do for everyone's benefit is just give you the opportunity to share more about your background,
okay,
what you've done in the past, including maybe a piece about your art as well.
Oh yeah, sure. So let's see, my background is as a therapist. So I have my master's degree in, my master's degree is in existential phenomenological psychology, which is a huge mouthful, but it really is looking at, what does it mean to be a human? What's the experience of being a human? And the existential part is our anxiety about death and how do we manage that. But I went from that into doing more research, quantitative research at the University of Washington, and then opened a private practice. My background is actually in fine arts, so I was an art historian. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything, art therapy, all of these things. And had a private practice for a while. I was doing energy psychology. And in the process of doing energy psychology, so I was already on the fringe of the fringe. And in that process, doing a lot of work on myself and my own mindset, my beliefs, I kind of moved out of doing therapy into coaching. And at that time, I was really exploring, again, more the mindset piece and what it takes to do sales and speaking, overcoming my fear of speaking. I used to turn like 5 shades of purple and I couldn't speak. But I always felt called to do it, and always felt called to write a book, always felt called to do these certain things, but couldn't figure out why. And I just was so afraid. And so here I am doing all this, like, okay, I'm going to clear whatever's wrong. I'm going to clear whatever blocks I have over and over and over again. And at one point I just had this hit, like one day sitting on my couch, like tapping, and yet another round of beliefs. And it was like, I'm going to be here all damn day. Like if I don't, like I will always find something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we cannot make someone or something all right by focusing on what's wrong. It just they don't go together. You can't do that. It doesn't mean that there isn't challenges. It's just like, you just can't fix it from that perspective. And so I was like, whoa, well, I was trained to do diagnostics. I was trained to figure out what's wrong with people. And that was part of my job at the University of Washington. And so I was really good at it, and too good, in fact. And so at that point, I had a little crisis in my work. It was like, okay, well, if I'm not figuring out what's wrong and solving that, what am I doing? And at that point, human design found me and I found human design. It was like, and I remember looking at the chart the very first time and I was like, what the hell's that? That's weird. And I love woo-woo too. I was, I'm deep in the woo, right?
Yeah.
I have a hypnotherapy certification, yoga therapy, I mean, all kinds of stuff. But looking at that, I was baffled. And yet there was something about it that I knew truth was here. And I didn't know how or what any of it meant. And I started, like many people, reading as much as I could and getting my hands on that. And having finally a session, analysis, and just going, oh my gosh, you just described me to a T. And one of the things I was sharing on BG5 Live recently, where the analyst said, well, you're a natural storyteller. And I was like, I am. And I just finished my book like that. I mean, it was, and it changed my speaking. Like it just completely changed the way I showed up in my life, in my business. And it helped me to understand some of the patterns that I couldn't clear, because you can't clear energy like that. If it's in the design, so you've got to learn how to work with it. And so really, I was just immediately enamored and started studying. And about, I don't know how many years ago, like 3 years ago, is that right? I've been in my experiment for about 9 years now, and studying human design. And I think it was about 3 years ago that I was introduced to BG5. And up to that point, I had clients who were in business, and, you know, based on my studies in human design, I was using it with business people. But I was like, I don't know, I'm a very practical person. I'm a 5/1. So I love the grounded, practical, like, tell me, like, I love the esoteric pieces, but I'm like, what does this mean? What, like, how do I do it? How do I apply it? And so I was so attracted to BG5, because that to me was this very practical bridge from the esoteric into really being able to not just apply human design to business, but to apply the business application to business. And I've been there since. So.
Wow. You know, it's interesting about what you talked about, how human design kind of found you.
Yeah.
The same thing happens for so many people. It happened for me as well. I wasn't looking for this. In fact, for me, I was trying to get self-help stuff away from me. And I don't consider human design self-help, but, you know, I was just like, no more. I wasn't even looking, right? And then here it is. And now I can't take my attention off of it, just like you. So
yeah,
how fascinating. And I do finally remember what I forgot in your introduction. So for those who are watching, Kris also is a TED Talk speaker.
Oh, I forgot about that too.
I just think that that's so cool. And the talk it's quite profound. I didn't get a chance to finish it all, but I'm going to, because I'm a parent, and I actually have said, just because I said so once. So
we all have.
And if you want to learn more about that, guys, it's at Kris Prochaska on YouTube. She's got her page set up really nice, and you'll be able to find it really quickly. So thank you for sharing more about your background and what you've done, and that navigation to where we're currently at.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious to learn more from you, especially, I guess, in contrast with everything that you've done, right? We didn't talk about the things that you've also seen, but maybe never endeavored into. Why human design and or BG5 up against everything? I mean, there's tons of stuff out there. You've seen lots of it, and you know, you've got a fantastic professional specialty in your background.
Yeah.
And then here's this woo-woo stuff out of left field, nowhere, you know, human design and BG5. Why these two? Why did you decide to move forward with those two?
Well, first of all, my sacral was a big hell, so it was like, I mean, it just, and like I said earlier, there was a truth here that resonated. And the other piece is that, I used to do clinical interviews, hours and hours and hours of interviews for research projects with people who were, had a lot of major issues going on in their life. And I've looked at all different kinds of personality. I mean, everywhere from personality disorders over to personality tests and systems and everything out there, everything in between. And I remember that there are certain things, like I have colleagues who are super into, I won't name other systems, just you plug in whatever system is your fave.
Yeah.
And I've looked at it, and there's some that I think are really cool that have, that speak to energy. But they don't, there's something about them that's sort of like, there's still a question there, and I'll get to that in just a moment. And then there's other ones where they're almost too simple. They're just like, here, throw you in a bucket. There's 4 different things. We'll throw you in a bucket. And it's like, okay, this is really fun for about a half an hour. And it's like, so what? And, tell me something I don't know, right? And that's, again, with human design, it's like, it's innately validating. Like we go, oh, I recognize me. But it's also like, oh, wow. Like you can get really specific. And the reason we can get specific is because it's based on objective data. So going back to, all the different personality systems, even the ones that are sort of grounded in energy, is that, or speak to energy a little bit, I'm thinking specifically of the Enneagram, is that all of them are based on a subjective essay questions, or yes, no questions, or multiple choice questions, or it's like, yes, I'm like this most of the time. Now, what we know about humans is that we are notorious for answering questions, not always how we really are, but how we would like to be perceived. Now, all of these they have supposedly built in certain questions that like create a statistically significant curve for the majority of the population. So the majority of the people answering this question are going to be in this bucket with a little bit of a margin of error, plus or minus 1, And so the thing is that you still, at the end of it, can be going, well, am I this or am I that? I mean, even the Myers-Briggs, I still have no idea. Even though I worked with somebody who does Myers-Briggs, I still have no idea which one I am.
Yeah.
And my husband, in his Myers-Briggs, says that he's not intuitive at all. He's one of the most intuitive people I know. And his design shows us that, where if you look at his Myers-Briggs, doesn't. And so for me, I look at it as like, we're looking at 3 points of data, your birth information. And because it's objective, there's no like, well, but I don't know, as long as you have the data correct, it is what it is. And so I love that piece. And I also have tested it enough times, most of my clients are women, but I've done a lot of couples work, and the women will bring their men in. And no offense, Rob, but you guys tend to be a little more skeptical, and except for you, maybe, but the present company.
No way. See, I'm even skeptical of the fact that I'm a skeptic.
It's good. That's a good thing to be skeptical about. But I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Also, we all have the skepticism. But the guys will come in, they're like, I've worked with construction workers, engineers, electricians, accountants, a cop, a lawyer, oh my gosh, like all kinds of, like all walks of life, teachers, salesmen. And they all come in and they're just like, okay, well, my wife, brought me here. And I'm like, look, don't believe anything I say. All right. Just don't believe anything I say. Let me just see if I can describe a few things to you based on your birth date. And they're like, this is hooey. It's not going to be anything. And I go, okay, fine. And then, but fine, cool. That's all right. Don't believe me. Let me just describe what's going on, the dynamics of your relationship. And so the way my mind works and the way my design works is that I can look at the design now because I've studied enough of the science. This is so huge. I've studied enough of the science from the source so that when I use my intuition, it's coming from a grounded place. It's not, oh, I just intuited all this shit about, about design. And now I just know how to work with people, because there are people out there that do that. They don't have the science grounding. They read the book, but then they're like, oh, I know it. It's like, there's so much more. So anyway, I'll look at it and I'll go, okay, I bet this is how the conversations go between you two, blah, 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 and describe it. And they're like, how do you know that? Like, it's all right here in the design. They go, okay, now you have my attention. And then I give them practical solutions and they go, I can do that. And then they go do it. And that's why I love this, because it takes out all the judgment. We don't have to fix ourselves. There's nothing to fix. You're either working in alignment with your design, you're either in the flow of your design, or you're not. And oftentimes it's just a little click on the dial. It's not massive 10 years of therapy. And I can say that because I'm a freaking therapist.
Yeah.
I don't want people on my couch. I don't want them I want them out living their life, doing what they came here to do and having a damn good time doing it. And so that's why I do human design and BG5, because it's the fastest way for me to say, look, there's nothing really wrong with you. I get there's challenges. Try this.
Yeah.
And it's right here. Their logical mind can see the map and I can say here. And so when I go into corporations and when I'm talking to leaders and I'm talking about emotional intelligence, I'm not just saying, oh, here's some of like, how do you feel about that? I'm like, look, this is how you do emotions. Here's how you're impacting other people. Here's why you have this going on in this dynamic. Try this. And they do, and it works. And they don't need to process it.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. And I can see this in you. You're lighting up as we're talking about
I know, it's so fun.
It is fun. So there's a blower outside, everybody. We're going to keep this interview going. Hopefully it's not too loud.
I can't hear it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, wow, Kris, I clearly get it, and I'm sure that everybody else really understands precisely why human design and BG5, which is essentially, which I didn't define this at the beginning. I really wanted to. For those that are watching and this is your first exposure, BG5 and human design are the same family, okay? Human design is more personal, and BG5 is the business and career application of the human design system, simply put, okay? And so Kris, you're a former therapist, and you added the BG5 certification to your professional certification. We all know why now because of the previous question.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there are lots of counselors, and I don't know if this is the synonymous word, therapists, and then other coaches and other professional consultants that are listening to this right now,
Yeah.
who are possibly wanting to add something like this to their practice or to their repertoire.
Yeah.
Based on your experience, what can you share with them, or what would you have to tell them as they're looking into this for themselves?
I would say, oh my gosh, I have a lot to say about this. I'm going to keep it very short though.
Okay.
The world of therapy, specifically mental health, is built on the medical model, which is that there is something, normal to abnormal, and all the places in between. And one of the things that I love about human design is that it literally shows us what is happening, not just intrapersonally within a person. All the fears that we experience as humans are in the design. All the anxieties, survival fears, like the dynamics, love, sexuality, everything, how to make money, how to interact with others, communication, like all the things that therapists talk about, depression, anxiety, all of these things we can map them in the design. And there is such an incredible relief for myself and my clients when I show them, hey, this makes sense. Because that's often part of the issue, is sort of like, I must be broken, there's something wrong with me, and why is this happening? Because sometimes even when you get to the root of it, the story of it, there's a mechanical issue that's just simply the way the design works. And when we get that and we can look at it from that perspective and say, this is why I'll use my own family. This is why I interact with my son a little bit differently than with my daughter, because they're different kids. They're different people. They have different designs. And the way my design interacts with my son and the way my design interacts with my daughter, the way my design interacts with my husband, totally different. And I can do something with that. I don't have to sort through and, get years of therapy. I'll share with you, I did some work with a family member in the last couple of years. And it was something that there was just a lot of miscommunication. And it was like, okay, let's go see a therapist. Like this person doesn't do design really, the person I was doing this work with. And it was like, let's go see if maybe a therapist can help us, right? PhD therapist, by the way. Okay. We go in there and I swear to God, that therapist did not know what to do with it. I mean, she didn't know what to do with us. And I looked at art, and after like the first session, I looked at our designs. I looked at my design and this person's design. And I am purposely being, holding their confidentiality. I look at them and I'm like, in 10 years, that PhD would never see what I'm seeing. As soon as I saw where we were doing this and where we were so similar and where we were different, changed it. I was like, oh, there's the dynamic. Okay. And it was like we were never going to get to a place of resolution through the old way of talk therapy. It was never going to happen. And that person was never going to see what I saw in the mechanics that allowed me to step out of the dynamic and therefore the other person to step out and for us to come to a place of just going, I see you, you're different, and it's okay. So thousands of dollars saved, time, energy, pain, like huge. This is huge. I've helped business partners, consciously uncouple. I've helped, partners consciously uncouple and look at their business and look at the dynamics and say, this isn't personal. This is literally, it's just not going to work. And how can you dissolve that in a way that honors both of you and lets the business and or the dynamic, the family, thrive?
Wow.
So yeah, it's a big deal. It's huge. And there's nothing like this in the world of therapy, nothing. And there's nothing like it in business.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know much about the world of therapy at all, but I definitely know business. And I've been part of companies where that consultant comes in and we do a 2-day team building thing. And then the following Tuesday, everyone's forgotten about it.
Exactly.
HR felt good about it. HR felt really good about it, but in application, it just fizzled away. And, there you were stuck with your 4 letters or whatever. And it's just like, it just dies off, right? So I totally understand what you're saying. So thank you for sharing that as well. And how profound. I mean, you've really done some deep work with this. And when I say deep work, I'm not talking like deep because you fixed anything, right? Because we don't need fixing. It's just you've gone into some really, I would say that they're uncomfortable, because one of my shadows where I'm distracted myself is in emotional intelligence. I avoid confrontation and truth just like I avoid COVID. So
me too.
I mean, I'm literally like, make nice, play nice, say yes when it's no, whatever it takes to keep you happy and whatever it takes so you just don't get upset. And I might even lighten the message. And if I really wanted to like tell you something or give you a piece of my mind, I probably am going to end up lightening it just a little bit so that I don't really hurt you, so that I don't really upset you, etc. And I just gave you less of me, right? So anyway, all of that to say, wow, you've really gotten in, and I thought it was beautiful that you were able to help a business couple consciously, lovingly separate, right? And not disrupt the organization. So how cool is that?
Yeah, I've done that actually a number of times because there's a lot of women who are collaborating now, which is awesome, and men and women, where you have these two business partners and they're coming together to collaborate, which we're going to see more of, more and more collaboration, because that's where business is headed. But the thing is that if it's one thing to know your own design, it's a whole nother thing to understand the partnership dynamics, especially when it comes to business. This is a whole different application. So you may understand the human design part of it, but when we start to look at business, there is, you know, as you know, in the Penta and the OC16 and all of that, like there's a whole nother layer here that is underlying all of it, that when you really apply it into business, it is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, for sure. So now that I want to go back a little bit, we've talked about so many things already. At the very beginning, I mentioned that there's two courses that you help guide for the Institute right now. One of those is the foundation course. The other is the profit potential. Can you share with those that are watching this video a little bit about what is the foundation and what someone gets from it, and then the same thing for the profit potential?
Yeah, you bet. So I love the foundation course at BG5 because I studied the foundations of human design for a while before I came to BG5. And I knew when I came to BG5, I was like, I want to do the certification. But in order to do the certification, I had to have the basics of the BG5 language and that foundational piece. And so I had to take foundation first. And so when I did, I was like, oh, I thought I knew human design. And then I took the foundation course and I was like, wow. The way Karen has set it up, the way it's taught at BG5, just like the resources and the way it's laid out is so robust. It is so good. And then I love the translation of the terminology.
Yeah.
So that's why I love foundation. It's just, it's so, like, even if you never intend to use it with a client, you learn so much about yourself just taking the course, and it's incredible. And then I know I don't teach certification. Maybe I will someday, but right now I don't. But in certification, that's where you really learn how to apply it. So more of the science and definitely the art. And that's the other piece. Like, there's a really big difference between the art and science of design. You can know the science and be a lousy analyst. I can't tell you how many clients come to me and they're like, well, I was told because I'm a projector advisor that, you know, I can't market my business because I have to wait to be invited. They literally just told that. And it's like, well, technically, yes, technically that's accurate because you have to wait to be invited. But I am so sorry that you had that experience, that someone thought that they were empowering you or giving you information just because it's technically accurate does not mean that it's actually helpful in any way, shape, or true. Because I've worked with enough advisors to say, look, yes, you have to wait to be invited, but here's how that works. Here's the art of it. Here's the art of being you. Here's the art of delivering. And in the profit potential workshops, that's kind of where, for me, it really comes to life, because I'm a storyteller. And the way that I see design is that, for me, it looks like sacred geometry. So I often will close my eyes when I'm working with people or I look at their design. And when I look at someone's design, I see it as a three-dimensional moving form that I can see where other forms, designs lock into it. I see it that way. And basically what I'm doing is describing what I see. So when I'm looking at someone's profit potential, I'm like, well, this relates to this and it goes like this and they all go together. It's not just here's one piece and then here's the other piece. That's the art. The art is being able to see the whole and how it moves and how it works. And so that's what I bring. I bring that to my foundation. I bring that to Profit Potential. I bring it to BG5 because it's through story. It's through my psychic and intuitive knowing and of the science, but also my ability to see that describes it in a way that allows people to understand and integrate that design in a way that allows them to live it in a practical sense or learn the information in a practical way. Because it's not easy information sometimes. It's kind of out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, the integration aspect that you talked about is vital, right? I mean,
oh yeah,
who wants to study this stuff all day long and then just put the book on the shelf? You
yeah,
know?
it's not for that.
No, I mean, and that's the thing that I think both you and I share is the practicality of it, especially, you know, for me, I was drawn to BG5 like you were because they use everyday language and I'm a worker, right?
Yeah.
So everything that I think about and do is typically work oriented. Doesn't mean that I'm a workaholic. It just means I'm work oriented. I'm here to work. And so that's why it clicked for me. And it's just like, I was able to absorb it so easily and see it out in the world, much like you know, were able to look at someone's design in a 3D way and just pull all the pieces together.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, the Profit Potential is a fantastic course. I mean, every one of us on the planet is at some point in our life has the mystery that we're trying to solve of how am I designed to do well materially, to profit, right? And so that answers that mechanically.
Yes.
Like here's what's under the hood,
Yeah.
you know, and then you shut the hood. So very cool, Kris. So what I want to do now is I want to give everybody some good guidance on how to connect with you.
Oh, sure.
How's the best way for someone to connect with you? How do you want them to connect with you? How do you want them to engage?
Well, you know, I mean, for sure, come take classes. I would love to teach you, you know, that would be a super fun way. So join us at BG5. And if I'm correct for you as an instructor, like, welcome to my class. I would love, love, love to teach you. If another instructor, like, awesome, you know? So, so that would be the first place that I would say. I do have my own private business. I do called Align Your Design LLC, and I actually really love working with the builders. And so I have a program called Builder Revolution, which is all about how us generator and manifesting generator or classic builder express builders are here to use our profoundly sacral energy to build a life, a business, relationships that we love, doing what we love, loving what we do, and how to use that energy correctly. And so if that's something that you're like, I want to know about that, just go to alignyourdesign.com and you can find out more about Builder Revolution.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Kris, it's very clear to all of us that you love what you do.
Yes, I do.
And you're clearly living your design. And for that, the world is going to become a better place. I wanted to thank you again just for giving all of us the opportunity to learn more about you, who you are, what you're passionate about, right? And you know, kind of right now as it stands in the moment, what you stand for.
Yeah.
You know? So thank you for that. And I look forward to future conversations with you.
Absolutely. Call me anytime. I love chatting with you, Rob. It's super fun.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.